Okay, who are you guys?
I'm Desiré. I work as a UI UX designer.
And we have...
I'm Paul, and I work as a developer.
And Christina.
Perfect. And my name is Christopher. So, Paul and Desiree, I'm going to ask you some questions. What do you wish you had known about Distancify before joining?
It's hard for me to say because I worked with all of the guys that actually were in the company from the beginning. I guess I could say that I wanted to know more about more or less the founders of the company, probably some good and bad cases, experiences, because as you all know, there are some risks with smaller companies.
Yeah.
And you really need to see if you're a good fit and if you really want to be a part of the journey, because there will definitely going to be a journey.
Yeah.
At the beginning, basically just see if there is potential. As an employee, I mean, I'm assuming that the company owners would want the same thing.
Yeah. But your journey, by the way, is very similar to Levi. We've talked to Levi before, and you worked with us before Distancify even came to be.
Yes.
Back when we were working at an e-commerce retailer here in Sweden. And you were just thrown into it, right?
Actually, I think it was something like this. The manager came in into an afternoon into my office and asked me to follow her. We went and chat into a room.
Okay.
And it was like a small dark room. So, to be honest, I really had no idea what she wants because they never used to talk with employees in particular.
Okay.
Except for that time of the year when the evaluation came.
Yeah.
So she actually presented me an opportunity to work with what she described crazy guys that implement awesome things and always try to break the rules and always try to do the impossible to gain value. She actually promised me a place where I can grow and better working conditions.
Right.
I had like 5 minutes to consider. And the only question that I asked was, why me?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, well, you see, you're pretty new here and you're one of the few ones who actually implement whatever we say.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I was lacking a lot of strengths and I didn't have the required qualities because my career was quite at the beginning.
Yeah.
I have worked for like 1 year and a half at that company. And when I went there, I actually went to learn how to program.
Right.
So,
it sounds almost like a movie. You bring you in a dark room and like, you have 5 seconds, make a decision.
not quite 5
No
seconds,
pressure.
but
Exactly. It's gonna determine the rest of your life.
perhaps not.
Yeah.
But
That's a good story. I want to make a reenactment of that when Paul got hired.
Yeah, but I actually knew about Levi and I knew about the guys who worked.
And you worked with Levi before, or just met him like in the lunchroom, or
just met him? And the others, they were describing him as a guy that is used for trying new things and always exploring. He was the guy who was leading the path.
Right.
Yes. So I was, yes, of course, I want to work with that guy because I can actually learn a lot.
Okay. You weren't afraid or anything? Or like
no,
worried?
I wasn't.
Right.
Worried, obviously.
Okay.
Worried that I might not be a good fit or that I might not be actually able to keep on with the others,
Right.
But I was like, okay, I got to at least try and then we will see. Here I am after almost more than 7 years.
Yeah, that's some great resilience.
Yeah.
You were working with this outsourcing company primarily. We just happened to work like that at the time. And I think you were the 4th or 5th guy that came in. And, you and Levi stuck for some reason. And we've been working together ever since. And when we started Distancify, it was like a no-brainer. Of course, Paul's going to be with us. Desiree?
Yeah. This is a tricky question because I obviously started a little different.
Yeah.
I wish I would have known a little bit more about the work culture of Distancify and the mentality of the team, because I also started at a distance from Spain.
Yeah.
And this was during the pandemic, so it was kind of weird times. And at the same time, I think that it's probably the closest I've been to a team and where I felt that I could really be open with my thoughts. And I think in the beginning, I was a little bit afraid to say what I thought, which has really changed the more that I got to know the team. And I think they would be good to know that in the beginning, before I started. That's one of the biggest assets, because going for quality, but giving you the space to do these mistakes to come up with like really great things.
Yeah.
It makes you grow a lot as a person and in your work role. So yeah, that would have been good to know at the beginning.
Okay,
like,
right.
then someone would yell at me like, come on, let's go, try something.
We try to sort of challenge each other. There's this saying, I don't know where it comes from, arguing with an engineer is like wrestling with a pig. After a while, you realize that they enjoy the mud. I think we enjoy disagreement at the company. And for someone new coming in, everybody seems to be, well, not angry with each other, but there's no disagreement. That's healthy disagreement. I think everybody is very open to stand corrected. And I love that when I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I think you're wrong. And then, oh, wait, now I get it. Now I understand what you mean. Yeah, that is actually much better. Let's do that instead. But it's important that you push a little bit first to see, because something that I've always hated myself is what some people refer to as the hippo trap. It's an acronym for the highest paid person's opinion, which is not how you make good decisions. It should be the best argument wins.
I think that the culture of let's just try to pick each other's ideas apart and just totally trash them.
Yeah.
Just make everybody so much better, because nobody would take offense in that. We just learn from each other, which is great.
Yeah. All right.
But also one more important thing is the respect. We respect each other's ideas, the way of thinking. We also know the backgrounds where we are coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting more diversity into the company as well as we grow. We started out as like 5 kind of similar engineers, and we've added you, Desiré, working with design. You have a great sort of visual mindset and talent, and are able to make things look really good. Well, we all have different backgrounds, basically, and different mindsets, what we care about. And that's great.
It's a very open process, because now I feel like I design thinking about the programmers as well as the customers, whereas before it was probably thinking more about just the customer and the customer journey, which is good in a sense, but it's not that viable in the long run, and it will make a project probably be a little bit slower than it could be. So that's a great process that I haven't seen in any other company.
Yeah. Actually, you, Desiré, you started out as a contractor or working part-time, just a few hours a week. So if you count like that as the sort of starting date, I think we've been working for like at least 2 years, right?
I
or
think
even,
so.
Is it even more? Maybe, I don't know. But it feels like you're not new to the company anymore. But recently, I've been doing this full time, essentially, and that's been great. Like having you focused on what we're doing. There's this threshold when you're doing something kind of half-assed, it becomes almost nothing. So you need to put in a certain amount of dedication for things to really happen. And I sensed a huge difference once you came on board fully, and it's been a really great ride. But would you guys say, like, you started out on one sort of idea of what your role was going to be? Would you say that your role has changed since you started?
I feel like my role is constantly evolving. Even though the core doesn't change, we change the way of working almost all the time.
Yep.
Always improve, always add, subtract. So the core is slowly improving, started to get more involved into how we work, more involved with the customer, more involved into how we actually do the pre-work analysis.
Yeah.
I mean, we are getting better one step at a time, and then we're slowly improving the core, I'd say.
Do you feel comfortable with this?
Yes, overall, yes. I mean, everyone has its period where he needs to adapt. Like, sometimes I need to adapt. There might be some ideas that I reject at the beginning, but then I'm slowly starting to see the importance. And then I become more and more in agreement. I mean,
Right.
obviously, there will still be times when I don't agree with something, but I'm getting better. And that's great for me and for the others, I guess.
Do you feel like you've been taking on more responsibility?
Yes, that at the same time.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm starting to get more and more responsibility, and that only prepares me for even responsibility in the future.
Right. Yeah. You enjoy getting that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. What about you, Desiree?
Yeah, I think I feel the same thing. Like everybody has, with time, been given more responsibility with everything they do. And since it started to become more clear which role everybody has, it's just like been flowing so much more easy. So that's, for me, has been the biggest change probably in the last year that we worked together. And sometimes I think that the ideas even came in so fast when we came up with suggestion on how to improve things.
Both of you grown, or your roles have grown quite a bit. And you even started working together, and it seems to be working fine. I hope
Well,
you
it's
agree.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I mean, I feel much better when I have somebody to talk about the design, because previously I didn't have a chance to actually sit and talk.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. If I have a problem, I just reach out to Desiré. If I can't implement certain solutions, she will just give me an alternative.
Yeah.
So I think communication is really important in everything that you do.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the role, expanding the role makes you feel that you are actually a part of the journey, which is a great feeling, especially when you succeed on doing something.
I also feel like Paul, he's my go-to guy when I have design specification set. And just, can you see any other scenarios that might have been looked over here?
Yeah.
And he's really good at thinking about scenarios and pinpoint things from the code, but it also applies to the design.
Yeah. Paul in particular, he has an incredible sense of detail when it comes to finding those things. I like your mind because it works very different from my own. I kind of skip the details and then they come back and bite me, but we are all wired differently, and that's a great asset. And you seem to be making a great team, so I'm really happy to see that. And it's interesting because you, Desiree, even though you're a sort of technical designer, and you even have a background in engineering, you're not a software developer, but you're a technical designer with a great sort of visual talent. It's interesting when you sit together with a developer, the quality of the design increases many times over. And it's also, as you said, it's like the feasibility of implementing this, because sometimes you see designs that's like, it looks great in the mock-up, but then when it springs into reality, it's like, this doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. The feeling of the final product is not what you had imagined during the design phase. And that's usually what happens when you don't have the implementing part on the drawing board. So we're trying to combine those two elements. It makes a much better design and faster implementation rate as well.
I definitely agree on that. I learned a lot from Paul and Lindblom and all of the others. I think that from each design, it's like things that I didn't even think about before. They're like now in the baggage of things in my checklist that I need to go through.
Yeah, and it's very important to understand the medium when you're designing things, because sometimes I meet designers who are great at designing, for example, print, like magazines and stuff like that. But then they transition to web, for example, and the web will look like a printed catalog. The web is vastly different from a printed catalog. First of all, it's interactive. You can interact with the pages, basically. Also, the way you navigate is non-linear. Like with a magazine, you start on the first page and then maybe skip a few pages, but it's one direction. While on the web, you never know where the user is going to, where they're going to end up. It's important to have that understanding as you're designing. And it doesn't mean, though, that someone who's been designing print all their lives cannot do web, but it's important that you know the ins and outs of the web itself, the medium that you're working with. Just like if you're a web developer or a web designer, and you were to go into print, for example, that's probably a much more unusual transition to make. But if you would do that, you would have to know things about printing technology, how colors interact with paper and what kind of paper that you're using. This color might look one way on my monitor, but if I print it on this type of paper, it's going to look different in the sun and in the shadow and all that stuff. And if you're designing a car, you need to know a lot of physics. How will this behave on the road? And working together with a developer is a great way of learning that craft, or that how does it work? How will this behave in the end? Because there's more to it than just a static image. Like we see web as just, this is one image, this is this page, and then we go to the next page and that's this image. But then you forget, it's like multidimensional with, well, you have all the different devices, you have people who navigate with a mouse and people who navigate by touch. And there's more and more sort of media elements like video, animations. So the web has become a really interactive and dynamic medium. And the tools that we use are just sort of starting to catch up, I think. But yeah. All right. Last question. What's your favorite part about working at Distancify?
Oh, I know this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You start.
It's the liberty. If you have an idea, go for it.
Yep.
If you give me something abstract, that for me is like the best work assignment ever.
Yeah.
Because then my mind is open.
Yep.
Just let's see what comes in and then see the result.
Yeah. Yeah. I love giving you abstract tasks because I never know what I'm going to get back. So it's like a little Christmas gift. What about you, Paul?
For me, it's quite simple.
Yeah.
It's more or less about the projects I get to work in. I like the processes, the customers, and the team.
All right.
It feels great to be part of this company.
Yeah. I would love to have you both here. And it's going to be great working with you moving forward as well. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.